Hey everyone. So today we're going to be looking at what it means to see the face of God. What does that speak to? Now, this is a continuation from the video where we addressed can we see the face of God? If you haven't seen that video, the link for the video is going to be in the description, right? Because you're going to need to touch for that video to kind of connect to where we go in here. So today, as I said, we're going to look at what it means to see the face of God. Now, there's some background things that we're going to have to cover before we dive into that. Now, in the last video, in the one where it says, can we see the face of God? We addressed the question, can we see the face? Why we could see the face? Why we couldn't see the face before? And what made it possible for us to see the face now? And the conclusion of it is that the face of God is Jesus Christ. And when we behold Jesus Christ, we are beholding the face of God. Now that sounds great. That's scriptural. But what does it mean? What does it mean for you and I to see the face of God, which is to say, to see Jesus? Now, in the last video, we touched on it a little bit, but we're going to try to dive in a little bit more today. And even today, we're still not going to be able to cover all of it, but we're going to try to cover as much as we can in the next few minutes. So one of the first places we'll go is to the book of John, chapter 5, and verse 37. And here what he says, this is Jesus talking, right? And he say, and the Father himself, which had sent me, had borne witness of me. And then he says, ye, which is you all have never, or you all have neither heard his voice at any time, nor seen his shape. So he's talking about God, and he says, you all have neither heard the voice of God, nor seen his shape. Now, what is he talking about? Is he talking about just the people there? No. He's talking about in generalities. Nobody has seen God. And if you think, well, okay, that can't be true, because how could he say nobody has seen God? If we go into the next chapter now, John chapter 6 now, and we go into verse 46. Here he says, he reinforces it. He said, not that any man had seen God. So now, it can't be that he's just talking about the people who are wrong, because he's saying not that any man has seen God. So it's not just the people who listening to me right now, but we're talking about man in general. So from Adam come straight down, he's saying no man had seen God. And he further confirms this when you go to the book of John again, chapter 1 and verse 18. And he says, no man had seen God at any time. So there's no wiggle room to get out to say, well, no, he's just talking about the people who were there. No, he's talking about throughout time. He said nobody see God. No one has seen God. And he tell us, he said not only did they not see God, they didn't hear God. Because he said no man had seen God, had seen his shape, nor hear his voice. So of course that should raise some question. How could Jesus say no man had seen God or heard God, when there are examples that we can go to that actually show that people have seen and heard God? And let's look at two examples right now. We go to the book of Exodus, chapter 24, and you could start from verse 9. Right? And here he says, then went up Moses and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and the 70 elders of Israel, and they saw God. So clearly they saw God, because that's what it says. And we go again. We go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 6. And many of you may be more familiar with this one, which is Isaiah saw God. And here what he says. When he saw God, listen to what it is he say. He say, then I said, Isaiah 6 starting from verse 5. Then I said, woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For mine eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. So he's saying he saw God. So we have two examples of where more than 70 something men, because it said 70 in the case of Moses, the 70 elders of Israel plus Moses plus Aaron, and now we have here Isaiah. So these men all saw God, and that's what the scripture is testifying. But yet we have Jesus saying, no man had seen God at any time. So we're gonna have to dive in to see what does he mean by no man had seen God at any time, when clearly the scripture is telling us that people have seen God, right? So come back on the next video, because I don't want to make these too long. So come back in on the next video and you're gonna see where we're gonna jump in to explain what it means for no one to see God, right? So until next time, peace out.